Salve and welcome. Today we are going to be taking a look at John chapter 2, verse 9. That's going to be about half of this page. And here's a rubric, everything that we're looking for in the Latin as we go along. Let's go ahead and get started. And lost the squaring. Ut autem gustavit architriclinus aquam vinum factum et non scaebat, unde esset ministri autem scaebant qui hauserunt aquam vocat sponsum architriclinus, and that's as far as we're going to go. Our very first word is always a little bit of a frustrating word because it has a bunch of different meanings. If we have an indicative verb, it has one meaning, and if we have subjunctive, we have a completely different meaning. So we need to find our verb before we can properly translate it. Here we have gustavit, which is our verb. It tells us that this is going to be a third-person singular ending. This EV specifically here tell us what tense this is. This is perfect tense. So that's nice and clear. And it's active and indicative. It means to taste, to drink. So tasted. Or drank because of the perfect tense. So now we know that we need a singular subject, but we also know since this is indicative, this is translated the easier of the two ways, so as or just as. Autumn, we've been translating as, I've forgotten now. I think it's just but. Unemphatic. That's the way that Jerome appears to intend it. Architriclinus, US here tells us that this is a nominative singular, and of course masculine. So now we have our subject, and this is the toastmaster. Or master of feast. Now that we have that done, we know that we need a direct object, and that's what we find here in aquam with the am. But note that we've also got venum, so either one of these could be our direct object. But since we have two accusatives, one of them can't be the direct object since there's no coordinating conjunction. So one of them has to be fulfilling a different function. And factum actually provides us with the specific function. Since am here and ahim here, we know factum is feminine, so it can't be modifying venum. It's accusative, singular, feminine. And this is from facio, facere, faci, factum. So this is going to be perfect, passive, participle. And this acts as a linking verb when it is modifying either something that is nominative or pretty much anything else. So we know that this has to be a predicate accusative. I think, yeah, it's neuter. Predicate. And there we go. But just as toastmaster drank water having become wine, et and non-negates whatever we've got coming next. Sciebat, bot is our imperfect ending, third person singular, bombos bot. Active and indicative. Say, and was not knowing, used to not know, kept not knowing. That's the normal way that we would translate the imperfect, but that sounds a little bit off. Nevertheless, we are kind of stuck in translating it that way. And not was knowing. In some circumstances, we can translate it like a perfect tense verb, but you want to be very careful about that and make sure that the context, the sense of the sentence allows it. What we've got going on here, though, is that we because it's imperfect, we know that he did not know and he continued to not know. It's a incomplete action, which is probably and usually why we would find it perfect. So whatever's going on, we know that this guy doesn't find out. Unde tells us where something is, and it means whence, the Old English, or where from. And then esset, T here, tells us that this is going to be a third person singular. This is from sum esse fui futura. Since this is built off of esse, the infinitive, we know that this is going to be a imperfect subjunctive. And of course active. Sometimes Latin is very clear on its forms, which is nice. And so this is talking about something that is uncertain, at least as far as this guy is concerned. So subjunctive makes sense, especially with unde. From where it might be. Then we have a new clause starting off here with ministri, which looks like it could be either genitive singular or nominative plural. So we want to take a look at our verb to know for certain which of those is actually correct. Skiebant is clearly our verb. Bant also the same tense as this one, so this is going to be parsed the same except that it is plural, otherwise normal. So nominative plural makes sense here. And masculine same meaning as above. Were knowing. Keep the same tense as that one, so while he does not know, they continue to know. Qui hauserant. Qui is a relative pronoun, so we've got a relative clause coming here. This is from qui quae quod. And with our relative pronoun, qui is both the nominative singular masculine and the nominative plural. Since we've got ministri, our plural, qui should probably also be plural. And masculine. Hauserant confirms that for us. Erant here as our ending is third person plural. And it's going to be pluperfect because of that A right there. It's active and indicative. Who had, this would be draw out, drawn out because of the tense. We need a direct object, which we find right here with aquam, am. So we've already parsed that above, don't need to do it again. Water. Looks like we have a new clause coming in here because we got a change in the person of this verb. At is, of course, third person singular. It is not aorist, it is present tense, sorry. Active and indicative. This means calls. Sponsum could be it because of the um ending, but this word, since we've got us as its ending, that tells us that this has to be accusative, and this one is our subject. Already parsed it. Accusative, singular, masculine, and this means groom. It doesn't look anything like groom, but oh well. Sometimes Latin and English match up, sometimes they don't. Well, there we go. That's everything up through the end of verse 9. Let's go ahead and take a look at it in its own context, and then we can take a look at it in its greater context. But just as master of feast drank water, having become wine, and was not knowing whence it might be, or from whence it might be, helpers were knowing who had drawn out water. Toastmaster calls groom. There we go. Sounds a bit rocky, but if you recall, that's how we're translating this. Polish is not something that we care too much about. Now from verse 1. And on the third day, wedding happened in Cana of Galilee, and mother of Jesus was there. But Jesus also was called, and disciples his to wedding. And since wine failed, mother of Jesus says to him, they do not have wine. And Jesus says to her, what is it to me and to you, woman? My hour is not yet come. His mother says to helpers, whatever he should say or will say to you, do. But there were 6 stone water jars placed for the sake of purification of Jews, each holding 2 or 3 measures. Jesus says to them, fill water jars with water. And they filled them up to the top. No articles. And Jesus says to them, draw now and carry to chief steward or master of dining room. And they carried. I realize now that I was using the Greek translation of this word. Oops. But just as steward, toastmaster, all of them are the same, drank water, having become wine, and was not knowing from whence it might be, but helpers were knowing, who had drawn out water. Toastmaster calls groom. And that's as far as we're going to make it. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope taking a look at this has been helpful for you. And I hope you have a good day. Wale. Hey, not asleep yet? That's okay. I've got tons of other equally sleep-inducing videos for you to watch. Check them out.